Hi everyone, welcome to my desk. Today I want to talk about the Citizen Promaster Automatic watch. I think this is one of the best bargains in the entire watch industry. It has a diverse 200 meter rating, meaning it has been tested by Citizen to function at 125% of the marked depth of the dial, which is 200 meters, so they have tested the watch to be functional at a depth of 250 meters underwater, and it meets several other requirements from the ISO 6425 standard. And the same watch with identical construction but different text on the dial was also issued to the Italian Marines. It was their go-to watch for years. The ones issued to them had the same construction and looked the same as these, but were probably put through additional checks and quality assurance to give them a 500 meter rating. So that's 625 meters depth tested. And you can pick one of these up that has that lineage for under $200. It's a certified bargain. I hope Citizen keeps making these watches for years to come. Don't worry about updating the hands or the dial. It's great. Just please keep giving us a great watch at an affordable price. The thing about watches is that their maker's history really matters. That's why the older brands keep beating on about established in 18-something or 19-something. A lot of it when these watches advertise a water resistance of 200 meters, 300 meters, etc., it's all up to the brand's own integrity. So if they've been doing it for a while, what they're trying to say is, hey, we've been making watches for a while and people trust us to make good watches that work reliably and also look good to many people, just like yourself. So if you can continue to give us some money, we can keep this whole operation going for a while. So please go ahead and buy our watch. A long continuous history of making tool watches or professional watches means that a brand's reputation is at stake every time they produce a watch, no matter the price tag. But especially at the affordable range, because these will be the products that will give them a reputation. These watches are the ones that are sold the most, worn the most, used the most, and hence tested the most. You can be about 99% sure that these Citizen watches will work and function in the toughest environments. At the quantities that these watches are produced and sold, and for so many years, many of their minor flaws have been ironed out. Let's go over the specs. It has a 42 millimeter diameter on the steel case, 47.7 millimeters lug-to-lug. It's 13 millimeters thick and has a 20 millimeter lug width for straps. It has a bezel diameter of 40.5 and the dial inside is 30 millimeters wide. It has a glossy black dial under a flat mineral crystal with almost a gill style layout for the indices, just slightly different because of how the 12, 9, and 6 indices are shaped. People do suggest that the Promaster wears smaller than the 42 millimeter case would suggest because it's kind of slim, but that was not exactly my experience. It wears kind of big and flat on my 6.5 inch wrist. I think it wears just like a 42 millimeter watch normally does. It has a nice heft to it also, which I do like quite a bit. Now let's talk about the case and the case finishing. It has a very perplexing quality. Whenever I look at this watch, I get a little confused. I'm just like, To me, this case has 3 different finishes. On the top, there's the bezel, which is technically brushed, I suppose, but almost has a bead blasted finish. Then there's the flat top part of the actual case, which has a very fine, high quality circular brushing, which looks really nice. And then everything else from the side to the back is all polished. So when I look at it, I'm confused by everything that's going on. And I think, who thought this would be a good idea? But then I realize it's actually making me look at it more, which is really the purpose of a well-designed case, to appeal to the wearer to look and appreciate it more. It's pining for your attention, basically. And the ones that do that really well are the ones that cost a lot of money. But somehow the Promaster achieves this without having to work anywhere as close as those expensive brands. So all in all, it's either genius or a total accident. Either way, it works for me. The bezel has the very unique grooves, a signature of the Promaster watches, and you can tell right away that it's a Citizen. It has my beloved loom pip at the 0 position as well. And it does a great job. The grip cannot be complained about, and everything lines up perfectly. It has a 60 click bezel instead of the more common 120 click bezel, so each minute indicator is 1 click on the bezel. This is the only watch I have that has this feature, and it is perfectly suited to this watch. I love how it feels. It clicks like a bolt action rifle. It's pretty entertaining, but it might not be the right choice for most watches. Like a Rolex probably should not have a 60 click bezel. It has to suit the personality of the watch, which it does here. The handset is mostly They look a little flimsy and just have a reflective finish, not so much a polished finish. It is from the past, similar to an SKX. You won't see manufacturers putting these kind of hands on their new watches because most micro brands are doing so much better these days. They just won't be able to get away with it. I don't think the Promaster hands are really all that iconic either. These hands had not been used previously and they don't use it since, so it doesn't score much on the history front either. Comparing it to some other watches, this thing looks like it will choke slam a G-Shock, at least one that's in its price range. It's one of the most tool-tastic watches I have. It looks the business, like an old school action hero like Rambo or Terminator. It's almost over the top, but because it has this history with the Italian Marines and I've read that these watches are actually used for diving very often, it doesn't give me too much of a poser vibe on my wrist, like I'm trying too hard. Nope. It just means business, that's all. I'll mention the 5KX watches from Seiko that look like the old SKX watches, but the Promaster will refuse to fight a child in the ring. No sir, it shall respectfully bow out. The Seiko 5s do have their place and they attract a lot of people to the brand and the hobby with their different styles and collaborations, but it can't hold a candle to the Promaster in specs. It doesn't even have a screw-down crown. The only reason I did mention it is because it's about the only automatic diver from Seiko in this price range. The rest of them have creeped up closer to the $400 price point. But I hope Seiko or Citizen continue to fill that shoe of an affordable, reputable diver's watch. It's almost a noble thing to do at this point. I know divers don't just use a wristwatch these days when diving, but normal people do use them for many things. It might be someone's only watch for most of their life. Isn't that incredible if you could make something like that for somebody? This is the only Citizen watch in my collection. It was quite hard to find something that I liked from them. Citizen watches are usually quite big and many of them have quite a funky or busy design. For me, it was hard to find one that I could really like. But I did want to get something from them because I always heard that their quality control and finishing were cut above Seiko for the same price range. I think that is probably true. The finishing, like I said, is really good and everything lines up perfectly. And in the looks, the Promaster does mostly stay true to those Citizen principles of being quite bold, but it's not too brash, looking fairly approachable at least in this version. I didn't think I would wear this watch all that often, just because how big it felt on my hand. It seemed like a little overkill when I'm just sitting at a desk, but I did end up wearing this very often. It gives me a sturdy feeling for the day when I need to get through something difficult. I could easily wear this for 12 years and accidentally crack it on a rock or something, and then just change out the crystal and wear it for another 12 years. It exudes that feeling of being able to last an eternity. That's just how tough it feels. Like this was its purpose, to outlive everything else on the planet. That's it from me this time. Take care. Bye-bye.